And welcome to Flightdeck Live, the Alouettes postgame show for this week versus the Alouettes game versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats as the Alouettes go into the Steel City Cliff and win 33-16. I am Tim Cabber along with Cliffy D. How you doing, bud?
Good, good. It feels like all the Alouettes know how to do is win at Tim Hortons Field. I mean, the last time they played there was it last November, and how did that work out? There-
No.
it's like that's all they know how to do is now. Now makes them 4-0 in the last four times they played at Tim Hortons Field. If my math is correct.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't complain whatsoever. I mean, it was obviously a couple of different yeah, a couple of different things were different this time around, but nonetheless, it was a win for the Alouettes, obviously, as they come into the game and they get their win versus. I guess it was a pretty good road show against them, and they moved to 7-1, and they tie the franchise record for their seventh straight road win. That's good to see, and obviously it was done um, with formerly third string quarterback, now our number one for this week under center, Davis Alexander. He had his first CFL start, and
His first
not
official
bad.
CFL win.
There you go. There, yes, that too. That
No, no,
too. None of this.
no relief. No coming in the ninth to seal the game. This was definitely Davis's win, 100%.
Yep, exactly. So, a couple of thoughts on this game, buddy. I mean, because it was really slow at the beginning. I'm really not surprised. Sometimes it does take for for a guy who has never had a start before in the CFL or any start really to really get things going. And that really was the case for Davis and really in the first and second quarters.
Yeah, I think a lot of he made a couple of mistakes early on in the game, and thankfully was able to recover. But we can sort of chalk that up to opening night jitters. I mean, listen, it's his first actual start, so of course it's not going to go flawlessly. I mean, there's going to be things that happen, especially. It's one of the things they talked about on RDS this evening was quarterbacks making their debut against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I think Davis is the first one to have won in quite some time. It's actually kind of incredible to think about, but. Yeah, no, Davis was not perfect by any stretch of imagination. We never promised he'd be perfect. We just promised that he'd come in and play the game that we expect him to. And by and large, he did. Mental miscues aside, and those are things that can be worked on. And as I said, I'm willing to chalk them up to just mental mistakes, like just maybe the nerves, maybe there was maybe he's putting too much pressure on himself to make plays happen, and it happens. I mean, especially for I can't really call him a rookie quarterback because this is his third year
Yeah.
in the league, but this is the first chance he actually gets like some real honest to goodness reps. So again, I think by and large, though, once he got settled down, he was playing fantastic football. He made great use of Walter Fletcher in the backfield, found great connections with his receivers, and listen, he did what he had to do, and he got the W.
Yep, exactly. And I at least want to reach out because it's something that I learned before as we were going live, Cliff. It's just an actual broadcast note. At the moment, it seems to be that we're not on Twitter, and the reason being is because they want us now to upgrade to be a premium member on Twitter. So yeah, I know. I got the screenshot. So thank you for everybody who's tuning in over on YouTube and on Facebook, and we will make that note for future shows. And I know we'll be Cliff. Yeah, you're on the account, so you might as well go ahead and tweet us out that if you can get us a link to us over on YouTube, it'd be greatly appreciated. So,
Definitely.
uh, but beyond that, I mean, again, it wasn't perfect. Davis throwing that pick six at the very beginning. Um, it really seemed to be. I thought at one point I thought it was tipped, but you corrected me because it did look. I guess on the first look it looked like it was tipped, but then as we could see it was just a throw that Davis should not have made. But again, you know, the Alouettes defense being as strong as they have, and they showed the stats tonight on TSN. The Alouettes defense was basically leading the entire CFL in multiple stats, including yards given up per game, points per game, et cetera, et cetera. They could, you know, despite a late touchdown a garbage touchdown for the Tiger Cats. Bo Levi and their offense did absolutely nothing tonight, and obviously a big reason behind that is how well this defense played tonight.
Absolutely. And just it's so funny because earlier this week, the Tiger Cats played the Elks, and Bo Levi Mitchell threw for 5 touchdown passes. And everybody thought, oh, he's going to come in. He's going to light up this Alouettes defense. He's back. Bo Levi is back. But no, we saw the Bo Levi that started this season 0-5. And I mean, if you're an Alouettes fan, you were thrilled to see that Bo Levi Mitchell. If you're a Hamilton Tiger Cats fan, you're wondering, what the hell? You were able to beat Toronto, which is arguably a very good football team. You beat the Elks. I mean, well, who hasn't beat the Elks at this point? Sorry to say, but once again, Bo Levi Mitchell was just having a hard time really moving the ball. Got intercepted numerous times, and to the point where even the fans at Tim Hortons Field were booing Bo Levi and the offense. Like they just couldn't get anything going. And credit to this Montreal Alouettes defense, they did everything they could to get in Bo Levi's kitchen. They dared him to throw deep, and he ended up getting burnt as a result. I mean, it was just, as far as I was concerned, a masterclass. I mean, by and large, they shut the door on Hamilton's offense. They punished Bo Levi. They made them anything that the Tiger Cats had to earn. They earned it the hard way, and that's what you expect out of this defense. That's what we've come to expect all season long, and then just let the offense come in and do their thing. And I mean, I think all facets of the ball, I think the Alouettes showed they are who they say they are.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, check your mail. CFL has sent out the official game stats, the final official game stats, and they're in your inbox. So if you want to go ahead and use them, even though using CFL Connect is pretty cool, I love using the CFL Connect. It's basically identical to that. So, um, let's talk. It's really funny considering that the Alouettes Cliff were up 10-7 at halftime. As I said, that touchdown for the Tiger Cats was it was on a defensive touchdown. The Owls still were able to score those 2 touchdowns, and sorry, those 10 points. And what a way to come back to, even though that, Davis had threw that pick six, it's just how the Alouettes were able to regroup, how Davis, like Alexander was able to regroup, and they're able to basically, you know, uh, they're able to march the ball all the way down the field and get their opening touchdown of that first half.
Yeah, and let's give credit also to, like, this team is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to making adjustments at halftime. It almost feels like it was a feeling out process for both teams in the first half, and then just like they seem to do every single week, it's almost like they crack the code while they're in the dressing room to, like, okay, we saw what they're able to do. This is how we take them apart, and that's exactly what happened. The third quarter comes around, and this offense finally comes alive, making outstanding plays and getting the ball downfield. And my goodness, I mean, Davis definitely showed that he belonged. He did not look out of place in that second half. I mean, he was definitely, he was cooking. That's the thing, is he was cooking, getting the receivers involved. Walter Fletcher, oh my gosh, what
Yeah,
a
yeah.
what a performance. He was definitely on one tonight, whether it was running the rock or catching the ball. He was all over the field. He was making plays. He was scoring touchdowns. Just absolutely outstanding work by number 25.
And obviously, there's a huge reason why he leads all running backs currently in the CFL when it comes to the receiving yards. So, I mean, it's as something that we've said all season that, and again, I'm going to probably again, I'm stating again how well Alouette running backs are good how good they are receiving out of the backfield, and you can't, you can't really, based on his performance tonight, it's true. You really can't question it in any way. That touchdown, by the way, in the second quarter to Charleston Rambo into
Woo.
double coverage. Was that shades of was that the Geno one?
Yeah, you're
Eh,
talking about back in 20. I want to say 2021
Yeah, I think so. It was in Hamilton too, if I'm
in
not mistaken.
Hamilton. Yep, to let the Alouettes go into overtime and eventually win that game. Yeah, it was just, yeah. Vernon Adams had knifed a ball right through 2 defenders into the arms of Geno Lewis. It was exactly, almost frame for frame, the same thing, except this time around it was Davis Alexander and Charleston Rambo. Like, wow, just wow. And Man, I think that was the second touchdown of the year for Rambo, and just couldn't have come at a better time. And that just got the ball rolling offensively for the Alouettes.
Oh yeah, for sure. And obviously, as I said, a little low key in the first half itself. Yeah, I think the first quarter, the Alouettes only held the ball for 5 minutes, but after that, I think they held it for like 8 in the second quarter,
Mhm.
which is good. So, showing that they were able to get their offense rolling. Then the second half comes about, and boy, oh boy, not only, scoring from the Alouettes, and, be it for me to give props to the CFL Command Center for doing a hell of a job. What a cluster that was in that I think it was in the 3rd quarter. I think it was in the 3rd quarter but I was like, "Excuse me, what? What are you doing?"
You're no, actually that was the second quarter. If you're talking about
Oh, was it the 2nd? Okay.
the James
Oh,
Tuck
yes, yes.
fumble, that
Yeah.
was at first it was ruled down by contact, which made absolutely no sense. And then the eye in the sky takes a look and says, "Well, the Alouettes didn't recover it quickly enough." What kind of a bullshit call is that? That that is ridiculous. Like that made
Yeah.
absolutely no sense. And then when you watch it again, it was clear as day it was a fumble. James Tuck was not down by contact by any
Nope.
stretch of the imagination. And as far as I'm concerned, the Alouettes were in the process of recovering. Like how fast do you expect them to recover the ball? I mean, it wasn't like the ball just sat there for minutes on end, and then the Alouettes decided, oh, maybe you should pick this up. No, I'm sorry, that was absolute BS. I apologize for the salty language, but
Yeah.
that was a garbage call, absolutely garbage call,
Yep.
and quite frankly, the command center should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, and everybody. We're talking from, other media members. We're calling out the league and Ambrosi and the command center. Obviously, supporters and fans online also on social media. We're just ripping them to shreds because even the TSN panel at halftime, for them to openly say that a call was absolute garbage. Yeah, the call was absolute garbage because
Not to mention too, it's one thing if the officials make the mistake on the field. Okay, human error happens. We get that, but that's why you have the command center. That's why you have multiple angles to see all these things. How the hell could you not see? First of all, one, he was clearly not down by contact, and two, the Alouettes, they recovered the ball, and I think in more than enough time, as if there's all of a sudden like a what 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and you don't recover the ball, then it's considered a dead ball. No, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't wash with me. That is absolute nonsense. And I would say the exact same thing if the tables were turned and it was Hamilton that was the recipient of such a garbage call. I mean, quite frankly, there was no excuse for it. Like, do better, CFL Command Center. I mean, I'm pretty sure Coach Moss is going to try and keep his tongue, bite his tongue, and try not to say anything bad about that. But that was, I'll say it for him. That was absolute BS. Just egregious. Even. I mean, there's. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Uh,
yeah.
would you
I'm
would
I'm
you
still
would
hot
you
over it, as you can tell.
Oh, no, I am too. I mean, would you rank it up there along with the no call in the Saints-Rams game in the playoff game? Is it up there?
Doesn't have quite the same ramifications, but yeah, I think it's just as I'd say. Yeah, I'd put it right up there with that. That was just how with the advent of video and the multiple camera angles that you have, and the possibility of seeing it clear as day, and you whiff on that call. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the play here, and, did the Alouettes actually challenge the play? Were they allowed, or they were not allowed to challenge the play?
They were
I'm
not
trying to
allowed to.
picture the play.
They're not allowed to challenge it because I think the command center was, or I believe Andre Prue asked them to challenge it to see what it was, but or I don't know if the command center stepped in on their own as they have been wont to do lately. So no, there was no challenge from Coach Moss on that one, and thank God, because I would. Could you imagine if he lost that was considered a challenge and he lost that, which he would have?
Mhm.
Uh, man, we may have seen the return of the Gatorade jug throwing Jason Moss at that point, as cool, calm, and collected as he has been. And you know what? TSN cameras picked it up. He was dropping some f bombs too. So I mean,
Yeah.
you could tell he was not too pleased with that decision, and everything that led up to what turned out to be, as you said, an absolute cluster.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at it here, with like 5:29 left in the second quarter, and you know what? I think on top of that too, Cliff, is they gave him the catch. How could you give Tuck that catch?
Yes, please explain that to me like I'm 5 years old. How in God's it could is again egregious. I mean, yes, James Tuck, former Alouette James Tuck, who won the Grey
Yeah,
Cup with the Alouettes and now playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I'm sorry, that was a fumble all day long. I mean,
it was. Yeah,
like
it wasn't a
even
catch either.
even if they said incomplete catch, that would have made that a little bit easier to swallow, like that entire comedy of errors. But no, they credit him with a catch like that. I'm sorry, that is that is bush. You want to talk about why people call CFL bush league? It's nonsense like that that gives the impression that this is bush league. And I'm sorry, that's what bothers me more than anything else. Like to
Yeah,
have such a gross, negligence as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I sincerely hope the league takes another look at it again and offers an apology to the Alouettes, because that is bunk, quite frankly.
yeah, yeah. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the Joshua Antwi onside punts. It's this. And how they can be so different from one week to the next, being so open and keeping an eye on certain plays, and we mentioned that in this past week's podcast, that they stepped in and made a correction. This this is a joke. And by the way, I think it was Bradbury who at the same time was for the last Alouettes home game. He was also the head guy in the command center. He was also the guy this week. How can you go from one extreme to the next is completely beyond me.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the smell test. Let's just leave it at that. I mean,
Al Bradbury, always comes back to, and we joked around saying that there was going to be there had to be a makeup call. There never was, so we're due a call. We're owed a call. Um,
well, and we did it. We did end up getting that call eventually. I mean that PI call on was it Najee Murray?
yeah,
I'm sorry that as far as I was concerned, he had his hands all over
I
that
swear he did
Hamilton
too.
receiver. Yeah, but like, oh, call over. Okay, and we were convinced, you and I, that Moss was going to lose that challenge, but
Hmm.
I who the hell knows with this command center what they see and what they don't see. It's just like, just kind of fumbling around in the dark and hope for the best. Like that's the only thing I could
See,
think of.
see, this is the time where we wish, and we understand that TSN will go to the commercial break, and they'll show they'll show the command center on one side, and then they'll show the commercial on the other. That's at the one point where we wish that we could actually hear. Kudos for them for allowing them to show the command center. We just want to hear what they have to say and their crazy reasoning. So
Well,
I
listen,
mean,
it's all well and good to show. To me, it could be just a static image. As are they truly reviewing the play at that point when they show that? Like I know they want to try and give that transparency look, but I mean, as you said, if we can't hear how they're coming up with these calls, whether we agree with them or not is irrelevant. At least have the chutzpah to explain to the viewers what's going on, like how they came to that conclusion that this
mhm.
play either goes this way or that way. Like, what's the harm? What's the harm in that? At least we may not like it, we may not accept it, but at least to have that explanation, to put it out there so that you understand why they went the direction they did, would be a tremendous boon and would really help legitimize some of these calls that are made.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Now, talking about the second half, the Alouettes outscored them, the Tiger Cats 23-9. But this is where some interesting stuff occurred, and it easily we don't obviously just being post game. There are some very big concerns coming up. First and foremost, I mean, Davis Alexander. First, Davis, this is a PSA from me, Tim Capper, to you. Please learn to do up your straps on your helmet, because if there was a drinking game tonight, we could potentially be somewhat drunk depending on how much how much how much liquor we were taking in. How many times did he lose his helmet?
Well, once is too many, as far as I'm concerned. And I'll say that about any player. What do you think about it? I mean, a lot of guys were losing their helmets, whether they're getting ripped off their head or just flat out losing them as a result of being, tackled. It was crazy. Like, I,
I
especially when
mean,
you talk about when you talk about player
exactly.
safety and trying to limit the number of concussions, head injuries, what have you. I mean, you're not doing yourself any favor if you're trying to keep your helmet as loose as possible. Like, what do you hope to accomplish by doing that?
Yeah, but did you notice it too? Because I noticed it's like every single time it's like it's like Davis, pull on your straps, make
Yeah,
them tighter so that thing stays on your head. It's there
something.
for a reason.
Yeah,
But
and
no, go ahead, go.
I was going to say the hit that he took from, I think it was Casey Sales, that grade 2 spearing was the call. Oof,
Yeah,
that that was dirty as hell. There's no
it
question
was.
about that. And Davis took a lick. I mean, just and I'm cringing. Like, watching him on the ground, looked like he was in a lot of pain actually, and I don't know if it was just precautionary that they told him to stay down and just stay immobile, but that was some scary stuff, and just not what you want to see, especially when this guy is replacing Cody Fajardo, who, yes, was on the 6 game list, taken off the 6 game list, didn't dress tonight, obviously, and who knows if he's even going to dress now with Hamilton coming to town next week. It's hard to say. I don't know. Again, I don't get the reasoning behind that, but then to see Davis Alexander take a shot like that, have to leave the game for a little bit. I mean, just
Yeah, it looked at like
not
at one
great.
point they're working on his lower back. He
Hmm.
did come in, and if you did notice on that slide late in the fourth quarter, um,
He was looking
it looked
wobbly.
like yeah, and it may have been his back again, and that's when they pulled him, and then that's where the unthinkable happened in Turf Monster getting Caleb Evans. After, by the way, first and foremost, it was such a an FU moment when after that play for Sales and Caleb throwing that touchdown to David Dallaire for his first ever CFL touchdown, by the way.
Yes, indeed.
Great FU. It's a great FU, huh?
Hmm.
Yeah, great FU moment. So, and then from there, next drive, Turf Monster gets Caleb, has to be helped off the field on such as I said, a non-contact play. But you could tell from the play itself, it happened as he was scrambling.
Yeah, he made a little juke move, and I think something went off kilter. And as I said, I'm fairly confident it was the turf monster that got him as he was trying to plant his foot. Maybe it just kind of went one way and he was going the other, and just yeah, the fact that he had to be helped off the field by his teammates, not good, not good at all. I mean, Caleb Evans, we were hard on him last game because of how it just wasn't working for him offensively as the starting quarterback. Short yardage, absolutely. He's the guy all day long. And that fadeaway shot that he does so well to help
Oh,
David Dallaire score that first CFL touchdown of his, that was, as you said, an absolute FU moment to the Tiger Cats, to Casey Sales, to everybody, for what happened to Davis Alexander. That was poetry as far as I was concerned. And then for Caleb, trying to score a touchdown, he had nobody in front of him. Like,
no.
his rollout was absolutely perfect, but yeah, just the way he planted his foot, just things just went sideways somehow, and now we're fearing the worst. And that's QB2. That's our short yardage specialist right there. And to tell you the truth, Tim, I thought we were going to see James Morgan actually get into the game at some point. And you know what? I would have been fine with that if only because at that point of the game, so what's the point of trying to risk anything with Davis, especially if his back is not 100%? He was looking wobbly, kind of walking off the field. I mean, it it didn't look great, and not the way you want to see a game like this finish, with essentially your fourth string quarterback in there simply because you don't want anybody else getting hurt.
Yeah, and you and I are going back and forth on this, on that last, that touchdown by Fletch, that last touchdown. The Owls decided to go for two. You
Yeah,
and I are going back and forth, particularly on the reason why the Owls went for two. Obviously, the Tiger Cats went for two earlier in the game, I think, trying to catch up. And obviously, with them only playing twice this year in the regular season, there is potentially an issue for when it comes to total points.
yeah.
But and I sent out a text to see if I could find out some information post game. I'm curious to know again, is Caleb Evans, was he the only guy who could hold on extra points? And I really think, in my opinion, until I hear otherwise, I really think that was the reason why they went for two, because I think Caleb is the only guy. Well, in the last couple of years, who else has held?
Zima's held.
Mm,
I mean, typically, yes, it is usually the backup quarterback that comes in and holds for the kicker. But I mean, Zima's done it in the past, so I don't know why he
Okay,
couldn't.
that's a good, yeah, that's a very good question. A very good point, rather. Very good point.
Unless he just hasn't had a chance in practice to work with Maltos as far as kicking for PATs.
Yep.
Possible, maybe, but I mean, again, only Coach Moss could truly answer that question as far as why they decided to go for two. I definitely think, though, point differential has something to do with it. I mean, God forbid this series gets tied. Like if Hamilton comes to Montreal next week and wins, then it's like the winner of the season series and could have ramifications for the playoffs down the road as well. One of the things they look at is the record and also 2 point differential. So it's understandable why Hamilton wanted to try and put as many points on the board as possible, even in garbage time. And simply put, I mean, they did what they had to do. I mean, it was tough sledding for the Hamilton Tiger Cats offensively. I mean, their defense was doing pretty well for the most part, but I tell you, this Alouettes defense, though, they did what I expected them to do. I mean, Bo Levi tried to stretch the field, and he got burnt as a result. And that's exactly what you want to see. Kabion Ento, for the second time in less than a calendar year, a
You almost had two.
major, you're right, he should have had two, but a interception at a crucial moment in a football game at Tim Hortons Field. Once again, did it in the Grey Cup, and he did it again tonight. Like, keep calm and Kabion.
Yeah, and you can't also, I mean, Darren Arnold think he had one hell of a game tonight too, man. I think he had at least at last time I checked it, it was at least 5 tackles. He was all over the field again tonight too. And it just said, we're saying earlier in the show is that, the the defense lived up to their name. They
Mhm,
really, really did. I mean, they only had one sack, that went to tie to Beverett earlier, earlier in the game.
mhm.
But they were just everywhere, dude. Everywhere. Najee Murray tonight, Cliff, had a total of 10 tackles.
Yeah,
10.
he had a great pass breakup late in the game as well, just to really help ice this victory for the Alouettes. Bryce Cosby, let's not forget, he had a
Oh,
pick against Bo Levi as well. Like,
yeah.
if you didn't know better, you'd swear that Bo was throwing directly to Bryce. That's how crisp it was. Like, wow, and just the presence of mind, like to grab it and turn the ball over. Getting Montreal back on offense, absolutely outstanding. Between him, KB Ento, Bo Levi, man, he does not want to see this Alouettes team anytime soon. But guess what, bud? You're going to see them again next Saturday.
Here's a great thing from Christopher Bousquet, a friend over in Halifax. Obviously, it, it's true. I agree with you. There, it just I don't understand what is happening when it comes to transparent. We've talked about transparency the entire time when it comes to the command center, and yet, sure they bring it and show it to us on television, kinda, but we don't. I've always said I loved the way the XFL and the UFL did it. You got to hear it. You
Mm-hmm.
got to hear what the call was and why they made the call. But
Yeah,
now, what's the CFL afraid of? You
stands
know?
reason. I mean, and again, that's one thing they'll point to is like, listen, we're showing you the command center. Like, you're okay. Again, it's a static photo essentially. I mean, it's okay. You do see someone milling about, and they make it look like they're looking at the game, but I mean, and thankfully they haven't been caught showing someone else's game as a result, just to you know try to throw the scent off. But that would be awkward. But at the same time, like it's all well and good to show that to appease fans, if you will. But yeah, I mean, sooner or later, that's not going to be good enough because especially when you get calls wrong, especially I'm sorry, that's the prime example is that James Tuck non-catch, non-fumble. I to me that there's a
Yeah.
lot of work to be done. I'm sorry to say, but there's a lot of work to be done by the CFL Command Center,
No,
and
I can put yeah.
I sincerely hope that we haven't had a chance to see the post game interviews or anything like that from the coaching staff, but I really hope nobody goes off. Like nobody spouts off and costs themselves some money as a result of that. Let me do that. Let me be your spouting point. Let me go off on these idiots as far as how they do or don't do things when it comes to reviews. Because I'm sorry that sticks in my craw. Like just I mean, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be upset because the Alouettes did win. They're 7-1. They're
Right.
arguably the best team in the Canadian Football League right now, and we should be glad. The team is undefeated on the road. I mean, like, there's so many good things that came about this evening, but to have that stain on this game, that's really what that was a stain on the game. It really took away a lot of the the good feeling, if you know what I mean. I mean, heaven forbid if the Alouettes had lost the game as a result of something like that. Imagine if that became like a chain reaction and that ultimately led to Montreal losing this game. People would be beside themselves. It would just be, yeah, it would not
I
be
agree.
pretty.
I agree. Obviously, there's gonna be a lot more we're gonna be able to talk about on the show this Wednesday, because we'll be able to hear more about the hopefully hear more about the injuries. And I think so. We have a Friday game, so that means practice would should technically start on Monday. On Monday. So we'll see. But stay tuned to anything else. And if I happen to hear any information about when it comes to the kicker, the little bit of uh, the question I sent out. If I hear any more about the when it comes to the who, if there's more than one holder for the Alouettes, I'll put out that on our socials. Got to
Yeah.
at least get some props here, Cliff, before we finish up. For Davis, considering what he went through tonight, helmet losses and all, he was still 19 to 27, 262 yards, that one interception early in the first quarter, one touchdown, and man, by the way, one play that showed his poise in that fourth quarter was that rollout and rocket to Reggie White Jr.
Oh my! And they were so deep in their own end zone. That for anybody else, that would have been like a potential safety being given up, or another pick six maybe. But yeah, you're right. Davis had the presence of mind. Finding Reggie White Jr. with a little toe tap just to stay in bounds and get out of the shadow of their own goalposts. Absolutely phenomenal. And let's talk about too. Like Reggie made a couple of really nice catches throughout the evening. He was definitely a favorite target. Tyson Philpott. Holy geez, some of the moves this guy was making was practically criminal. Like he was breaking ankles left, right, and center as well. Uh, my God, I mean, like just to have that rapport with his receivers. I mean, that really does speak to the maturity of Davis Alexander, how this team does want to play for him. I mean, except the O line though. I mean, geez, they hung him out to dry in that first half. I'm sorry to say,
Yeah,
like they were giving him practically no support. If anything, I think the entire O line owes Davis a steak dinner because that was a dreadful performance. They finally got it together in the second half, and created a lot of lanes, especially for Walter Fletcher to do what he does so well, and that's great. As we say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But man, that first half was definitely one to forget for this offensive line, and they got to figure it out. So we'll give him props for that. But for Davis to have that maturity, he wasn't phased by the mistakes he made. Like it was something like, okay, it happened, flush it, move on, and that's exactly what he did, and he recovered beautifully. He showed the poise. He definitely showed that the moment wasn't too big for him yet again. And simply put, he was able to lead this team to victory, a very convincing victory, no less. I mean, the score once again, like in previous games, this score doesn't really tell the whole story. I mean, this Alouettes team, by and large, once they got it figured out, because as you said, that first half was middling at best.
hmm
But once they turned things on in the second half, they put points on the board. The defense shut the door on the Tiger Cats. They did all the things that we've come to expect them to do in their six other previous victories. I mean, not always pretty, but they get the job done and do it in a convincing fashion.
exactly. Leading rusher for the Alouettes tonight, Cliff, was Walter Fletcher. 8 attempts, 56 yards. Longest was 26 and a tutty. Caleb
Mhm.
Evans also had a touchdown also on that almost touchdown by Rambo. I was wondering if that was going to be our makeup call there, by the way, but it was
Yeah.
it was obvious it was down by contact. For receiving, it was very close tonight, Cliff. Charles Rambo did lead the team. 4 receptions on 5 targets for 86 yards and a touchdown. Also, Tyson Philpott had 82.
Mm.
Uh, again, and Speaker finally got into it. Fletch again out of the backfield. Nate Bahar got his first ever catch as an Alouette,
Hmm.
and Reggie White Jr. also contributed quite a bit. So, and again, we'll be going into those more in detail on the show on Wednesday. Want to remind everybody too that if you haven't listened to haven't listened to or watched this past week's episode of the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast, please make sure you do so because we're speaking of the O line. Uh, we had our center. We had our
Okay.
center. He was our guest this week, and go ahead and take a listen to that or take a watch to it over on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, if you are watching this now, or if you're watching this later on the archive, make sure that you do like, you do subscribe, you hit the bell button for when we go live. Because obviously, considering as I mentioned earlier before, if Twitter seems to be wanting money in order for us to do it live on Twitter, this is how we're going to be promoting this between this and Facebook. Unless we start up on Twitch, we'll see. I'll let you guys know.
Hmm.
But make sure you do reach out to us over also on social media.
Yeah.
That's over at Alouettes FL Tech. And again, if you are watching us over on Facebook, obviously that's at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod and Instagram and on YouTube over at Alouettes Flight Deck. Any last words, buddy, before we head off? Because again, great win. Team does improve to 7-1, but obviously we came away with some very concerning injuries, and we're hoping to hear some more.
Yeah, obviously we're concerned about Caleb Evans because that did not look pretty at all. Obviously worried about Davis too because even though he got the win, he was able to come back in after taking that hellacious hit from Casey Sales. I mean, I think he had the moment, like he had the adrenaline going through him, but I got a feeling he's going to be sore as hell tomorrow. So I just hope, when it's all said and done, I hope he's okay. He just needs a couple days of rest after being in that car crash of a game. Uh, Again, when I look at this team, winners find a way to win, simply put. And that's exactly what happened here tonight. The Alouettes found the way to win. And I fully expect them to keep that going. And yeah, they're going to be facing the same Hamilton Tiger Cats team essentially a week from now, when you think about it. And I'm sure they'll definitely be taking notes. They know what to expect out of Bo Levi Mitchell and a lot of the receivers on that team as well. They know what their defense can do. Maybe if they can play a more disciplined game, maybe they could be a little more entertaining for all of us. But I tell you what, Tim, I'm excited. I'm excited with how this team played tonight, and if they can bring that same energy, that same momentum to Percival Wilson Stadium next Saturday, folks, if you don't have your tickets, you better make sure you get them because, listen, this is the hottest team in the CFL right now, bar none. And 7-1 doesn't happen by accident. Like this team, we've talked about this numerous times. This team is built to win. And even if starting quarterback goes down, receivers go down, other people go down, there's always someone to come up and prove that they belong on this team as well. The depth on this team was being tested numerous times. And so far, Tim, they're passing the test, I'd say. I mean, numbers don't lie. 7-1 does not happen by accident.
No, just not. And I was off on my math, by the way, with it being a Saturday game. Their first practice will most likely be scheduled for Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday. So,
So
uh,
that'll give Davis, I think, 3 days to sit in the ice bath and recuperate because my God, he's going to need
yes,
it. I
a-
guarantee when he wakes up tomorrow morning in Montreal, it'll be stiff as hell. And but
yeah,
you know what?
I'm still pleased. Here's another PSA for Davis Alexander. Please tighten up your helmet, your
Uh,
straps.
dude,
Once is a mistake. 3 or 4 times and almost getting your head ripped off is
almost a choice.
concerning. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But once again,
yeah.
so proud of what Davis was able to do tonight. I mean, he passed the test as far as I'm concerned. Uh, yeah, absolutely. David Dallaire getting his first CFL touchdown was pretty incredible as well. Shades of Regis Sibasu getting a touchdown for the Alouettes last year. Almost perfect frame by frame with that as well. Like Cody Fajardo finding Regis Sibasu for his first touchdowns at a Montreal Alouette. Uh, David Dallaire, same thing from Caleb Evan. Just again, the fadeaway jump shot practically.
Yeah,
Into
that's
like,
basically what it was. Yeah.
oh my gosh, like that poetry right there. So good on Caleb for doing that, scoring a rushing touchdown as well. As I said, just hope that it's not too severe his injury. It did not look good. I sincerely hope he doesn't miss very much time. or God forbid his season's over. I sincerely hope not. We're hoping the best for Caleb, hoping the best for Davis, and I mean it makes it a little hard to enjoy this victory, but folks definitely be excited. I mean this is
Yeah,
definitely a team that does not fold under pressure. They face the adversity head on, and they come out on top when it's all said and done. You gotta
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, here. Vicky's also saying, also with, I can't remember his name, but also getting his first interception. I know, he just, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
That's Bryce Cosby. That's getting his first CFL. Although I think he had one in the preseason game against Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it
Yeah,
was a
because
fumble recovery. But
either way, technically it's his first.
it is. I'm not taking anything. It's just I know again for Bryce Cosby to come in and replace Reggie Stubblefield and not look out of place. That in itself is massive,
Mhm.
absolutely massive. Bryce has done a fantastic job in relief of Reggie Stubblefield this year, and for him to get that first official CFL interception, chef's kiss.
Exactly. Stay tuned again for the show on Wednesday as we'll go into this more in detail, and I'm sure there'll be more news out there that we'll be able to talk about. But obviously, we appreciate everybody for tuning in to Flight Deck Live, the post game show this week between the Alouettes and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So for everybody here at Flight Deck Live, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We'll talk to you soon.